welcome to another episode of the SmaxTalk podcast. We are here. It is playoff season, and now it is time for my own personal power ranking list. I'm really excited to be making this one for you guys tonight. As you can see, we got the big camera out for today, as it is just me, and I'm going to be going through my power rankings, and I'm really excited for it. I think I've got some hot takes in here, and I'm really excited to see what you guys have to say as well. In the description of this video, there will be a link to the Tier Maker website, or you can make your own personal one as well. You may have already seen it. I did drop it in the banter chat of the PRL channel, but yeah, if you want to make one with me, feel free to do so and then send it to me because I would love to see your input on the subject. I'm really excited to be doing this in general, though. And without further ado, I'm gonna hop into my tier list. Disclaimer: I've got the S through D tier, and I did color them differently than the tier maker, just because I didn't want to get two different kinds of oranges. So I can get that in. So D tier, I'm going to signify as blue. And I only have one team in the D tier. I only have the one, and it is going to be Imperial Knights. Now, Imperial Knights are going to come in 12th out of 12 in the playoffs, but I do still have a lot of confidence in Imperial Knights. Getting to the good things here about this team, I think that Cruiser is an incredible AD carry in the bot lane here for this team. He often is 1v9ing these team fights here just out of the blue, and it looks really, really dominating here for Cruiser. I think he's one of the best team fighting ADs in the entire league, and he often does have to do exactly that, 1v9 in the late game on this team, and he does it really well. He's got the most pentakills in the entire split as well. So yeah, I've got a lot of confidence in Cruiser as a whole. And they've also got Babs. Babs is one of the best mid laners. I think he has a very defined playstyle in the assassins that he plays. He's got the Akali, he's got the Echo, he's got the Kiana, and he looks really good in all of them. And yeah, I'm really high on Babs. I think that these two players for this team are phenomenal. However, the rest of their team, I don't really have too much of an opinion on in general. We've got Akiraho in the top lane. We've got Captor in the jungle, who I believe is being subbed out as well. And we've got Tomathan at the support role. I don't have too much to say about these players, honestly, because they haven't really done anything to stand out when compared to their other teammates. And I think just having two players on your team that are trying to just roll over the game, especially when they are pretty clear cut as to what they're going to do. You can't just ban Babs out of his assassins, and you can just focus around shutting Cruiser down, and it'll work pretty well against Imperial Knights. And yeah, I think everyone else is really just background dancers to those two, which is a play style good enough to get them into the playoffs in general. So you can't knock them too much for it, but even still, I don't have too much confidence in this team at taking any other team down. I think their team cohesion isn't all that good, and I think it's going to be tough for them, no matter which opponent they are up against, and that's why they're the sole population, excuse me, the sole population of the D tier here for me. But with that, I'm gonna move over to my C tier, in which I do have 3 teams, and C tier for me is gonna be green here in the video. So in the C tier, starting things off at number 11 on my list as a whole, I've got Team Fish Taco Supreme. This is a team that barely got into the playoffs, very similar to Imperial Knights, and they did have to play a tiebreaker against SPK Embers, which they did win. They won outs on their games once they figured out that they were very unlikely to make playoffs. So then they started trolling. This is their words, not mine. They started trolling and playing for fun, and they started playing Heimerdinger top, and they won 2 Heimerdinger top games in a row super easily, I might add. They did it so dominant, and yeah, I'm sure it scarred Ferocity and SPK to their core here because it was very scary, and I expect that every other team is going to be able to ban that champion from Heimerdoodles so that doesn't happen to them. But yeah, that's definitely still something that can be really good for this team because you have to ban that champion. Otherwise, you're going to get run over in the top lane by it, and it's not going to look too pretty. But yeah, other than that, the rest of the team doesn't look too phenomenal, except for ZXYC. I think ZXYC is one of the best mechanical players in the entire league. He's usually the only one on this team that has his head screwed on straight, which is really solid for him. The rest of the team, although not so much. If ZXYC can hold his own going into the late game, then I think this team can still make some waves, especially if they do have the Heimerdinger as well. But other than that, I again don't have too much confidence that they will be able to take too many of these other teams down. So that's why they are coming in at 11 for me in the C tier. But moving on to number 10, this is going to be the first of my few hot takes on this list. Number 10 is a team that I have been known to not have too much confidence in across the course of this split, and have been berated pretty heavily by them and other people as well for not doing so, because a lot of people think this is a very strong team. I don't, though. I'm back to jumping ship, and I am going to say that Original is my number 10 team, and they are in the C tier, in the middle of C tier. And the reason for that is because their playstyle is very one-dimensional. They will only play team fights, team fight style compositions. They do it very well, though. They've got George Dale Jungle in the jungle, and he plays the Jarvan phenomenally well. I think he's the best Jarvan in the league, but the rest of his champion pool, not so much. I think if you ban the Jarvan against this team, you start to see where the cracks start appearing, and that's really rough, because Jarvan is a very simple champion, and while he does fit very well into that team fight style team composition, you have to be able to play other champions, and he just hasn't really shown that all too well. So that's the problem here for Original. Fakey Rush as well. It's a very similar situation with Fakey Rush, except it's only a misfortune for him. So yeah, I think that's going to be really tough for them to manage come draft, when you can just ban the Jarvan, you can ban the Misfortune, you can ban the Shen as well. That's Trollface's go-to. He's played the set a little bit too, but the Shen in particular is his go-to, and you can probably ban that away. I have a lot of confidence in Kalandini, though. I think he can play a lot of different champions, although very oriented about the team fight. You want to see him on the Rumble, because, again, they just go for 5v5 team fights. And if you can mitigate that well, then I think you're going to have a pretty easy time against Original. And that's why they are at number 10 for me. I'm definitely putting a lot of trust in the teams above them to be able to draft against this team, because I think that is very important at tackling the playstyle of this team. But I think it's definitely easily conquered. And, yeah, Original at 10 on my list. Moving on, we've got the last team in my C tier, number 9 overall, and that is going to be Jet Black. Jet Black, I previously had at 8 when I did make a top 8 ranking. They are now at 9, and it is mostly because of their game that they had against Akuma Katanas. Pretty brutal. Pretty brutal match against Akuma Katanas. You can't really blame them too much, though, because every game that Akuma Katanas has played their opponent did not have a fun time, except for that one Forbidden Tom Kench game. But yeah, other than that, going 13-1, and Jet Black did end up losing twice to them. And yeah, no surprise there, but Jet Black did look really solid in their other matches. I think that Hit 'em Up Rob is a really, really good weak side top laner. He has done a phenomenal job, especially on his Mordekaiser. And Hiccup has slotted into this team composition, or this team environment, very well, too. I think that she's a rock in the mid lane for this team. Often will be the one carrying come late game, but the early game is all about Cam. Cam is one of the biggest early game playmakers in the entire league, and he comes from the jungle as well. Whether or not his plays work is a little bit of a coin flip, I would say, but he does make it work more often than not, and it looks really good when he does, because they are very good at snowballing their leads, which I really, really like about Jet Black. And I have some confidence in them that they will be able to put up a fight against any opponent that they do face. And yeah, I'm pretty excited about Jet Black. I think this is a team that looks a lot stronger than they did last split, and I'm excited to see it. Speaking of last split, though, coming into the B tier, we are going to be going into the yellow for B tier. And yeah, speaking of last split and teams and their performance, I'm going to put Go Next here at the bottom of B tier. And a lot of that is just based on how they have fallen from the last split. If you were around then, they did place 3rd in the last one, and they looked really, really good. And this split, not all that much, I would say. They did end up losing 3 games across the split, and they looked really, really rough in some of the wins as well. I think this meta does not suit Bad Boy B-Way at all. His Akali is kind of off the radar. We're seeing the Irelia fall down in priority and a lot of tanks being slotted in, specifically the Ornn. And we haven't really seen his set all that much either, which is definitely not a very good sign. But in this new patch, 10.5, they did just buff a lot of the bruiser items. They buffed both Hydras and they buffed Blade of the Ring King. So if he does adapt to that very well, we could be seeing a rise back up from Bad Boy B-Way. So be sure to watch out for that. And Go Next Gaming, they also have a new mid laner here. They've got 2 of them. They've got Messiah and they have Trigger, both of which I think are mechanical upgrades to Tron. Whether or not they work better with the team is another thing, and we'll have to see. We've only seen 1 game of Messiah, and I think maybe 4 or 5 of Trigger. They've looked pretty good in all of them, but yeah, we'll have to see if they have the same team cohesion of Tron because they have played together for quite some time. Everything else, though, is about the same, I would say. Bishan's still the main playmaker of this team. Mid-game, early game, late game, everything. He does all of that for his team and is good as ever for Bishan. I am really, really high on Bishan. I think he is a top 3 jungler in the entire league. And yeah, this is a team that really does play around the jungler very well. They've also got Kiwi in the AD carry position. He is one of the best mechanical players in the entire league. Like I said, he is super, super good come late game as well. It's the AD paradise around that time, and Kiwi slots into that perfectly. So I think Kiwi is really, really good in that regard. And Seawolf as well. We've known that he is the shot-calling backbone of this team alongside Bishan, and that has led them to some great success. They are the first seed team after all, and yeah, they're slotting in at the bottom of B tier for me. The lowest first seed team, though, and yeah, I mean, they definitely do look still a little bit shaky, but I think that they can definitely put up a fight against these teams, and that is why they're about in the middle for me, coming in at 8 overall. Then at 7, we've got a team that has slid down a little bit since the previous weeks, and that is going to be Aether Esports. You guys may know in the last few podcasts I had this team potentially in my top 2, and they are now at 7. And a lot of that is because they are now lacking Papi Chulo. They have a new top laner in the mix. Papi Chulo, the star player on this team, I would say. More often than not, they did play around him in the early game, and he did lead this team to the late game, so they could be victorious in that stage because they do have Caliburn, who is one of the best team fighting ADs in the entire league. That is where he really does shine, but he's still pretty good in the bot lane, especially with Curry. Curry is likely the best laner in all of the bot lane in this league, and I really, really like his Thresh and the other carries that he does play down there. Super excited to see, especially against OTA Glacials, who I think is their main competition for best bot lane in the league. So yeah, that's going to be a really, really good match. But I would definitely still favor OTA because of current form Aether. Papi Chulo is gone, and just that by itself, even if their new top laner is really good, is going to be a hit. Because, like I said, he's the player that they played around the most. He was definitely the main carry of this team, and they played with him for all of the games, the entire split. Now, just immediately into the playoffs, they have a new roster, and that is bad news for sure. Just having that new person in, and the old player out too. That's the biggest part because they can't sub him in either. So that's gonna be really big for Aether. I still think they'll be able to put up a fight, and I'm still really excited about their bot lane. I think that's gonna be an amazing match to watch, and this is definitely a bot lane to watch out for come playoffs. So sure to watch out for Aether. Even though they're in the middle of B tier, got a lot of confidence in them. So, coming into the top 6, the top half of my list, still in B tier, but number 6 is going to be Essentia Storm. Now, this is a team that has been a little bit exposed by Soulbound Tsunami, the only team that has beaten them so far. So, worth noting that Essentia has beat everyone else. But with their revolving door roster here, Soulbound was able to take them down. And Essentia also with a revolving door roster. They've got Over the course of the split, they had a bunch of different top laners, but that is now locked down. They've got Diesel up there, and I've been very impressed by him. I think that Diesel is a really nice pickup for Essentia Storm, and I'm really glad that they have a top laner now, instead of just putting other players in that position for them to play Soraka or whatever, or what have you. So yeah, that's really good that they've got Diesel. I'm really confident in him. They've also got two junglers. They've got Striker and they've got J-Web. And while I am definitely Striker favored, I think that he should be the starter for this team. It's really cool that they've got two players in case someone's having an off day or they're working together with the team a little bit worse than the other player would in that day. I like that they have that, and I like that they've been splitting time. It definitely has brought up a bunch of questions, but I think a lot of those questions have been answered over the course of the split and last as well. So, pretty excited for this team. And they've also got the same thing in the AD position. While the AD position is a little bit less fluid as for whether or not players can do different things, especially in draft. Usually your AD players are going to be playing the same stuff. I think it's still cool that they have that, especially if Laxon can be as synergistic with both of them as the other. So that's really cool. I think this team is going to be very threatening in the 5v5 format. And just because of that, but also because they do have tea time in the draft as well. So that's going to be really big for them. I think tea time's drafts are phenomenal. And I think he caters to his team very well. So really big shout out to tea time there. And I'm excited for Essentia Storm as a whole come playoffs. And that's going to round out my B tier here. With that, let's hop on over to the A tier, in which I have 4 teams. I think a lot of the teams are really solid this split. And if you're counting at home, you'll know that I've only got 5 teams left. So there's only 1 team left in the S tier. If you've got any guesses as to what that is, be sure to let me know. I'm sure you already know if you've listened to my content before. But yeah, just jumping right into the A tier, my number 5 spot is going to Soulbound Tsunami. I already talked about them a little bit with Essentia Storm. Soulbound, the only team to take a game in general off of Essentia, but they took both off Essentia, so they're undefeated against that team. And yeah, I think that intrinsically does make them stronger here. They also have a revolving door in all of their roles, really. They're all fill players essentially, but their main points of skill in their roster are Core Havoc, who is usually support for this team, and Steel City Warrior, who plays pretty much everything. And I think these are 2 of the best mechanical players across all teams. I think that they are phenomenal. They work together really well too, and they are usually the shining lights in this team that just often just player diffs. That's what they try to do in their games. They will try to just outskill you at every stage. And I think they are the best team at doing that. They have shown consistently that that is exactly how they win games, and they've done a great job. And I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited for any game that they play because this is a team that's very entertaining to watch. You never really know what you're going to get, and I think that makes them a huge wild card in best of 5s because they can just switch up their roster all the time, and you never really know what you're going to get. So really excited about Soulbound Tsunami. I think this is going to be the best team to watch for entertainment value as a spectator. So you're not going to want to miss that. You're not going to want to miss any of the teams at this stage either. I think this is going to be the highest level gameplay, in my opinion, of course. And yeah, we're lucky to have all these teams in our league as well. I think these are phenomenal teams in the A tier and the one in the S tier as well. But with that, I'm going to break into the top 4 now. If the rankings were if my power rankings end up being the list in which you do make it, you advance in the playoffs, then this is going to be my semifinals. This is my predictions for the semifinals. And starting that one off in the top 4, the 4 position is Lost Collective Gladiators. This is a very interesting team. This is a team with the highly perceived best player in the entire league in the jungle position here. That is Griffin. Griffin is a player who has been known to just hard carry games against every opponent that he's played against. They played against Aether in their most recent match. He got 5 champions banned against them. He played a 6th, and he still did it to Aether. He played his Gragas, and he still smurfed on him. It was crazy. And I expect that same level of gameplay moving forward as well. There's no shortage of carry junglers that he can choose from, as shown by that. And I think as long as he's on a carry jungler, this team is definitely poised to win the game that they play. I think that he works really well with his team too. They've got Echidna in the mid lane, and Echidna is looking really, really solid at that mid jungle duo presence. They can roam around the map really well and try to get advantages come to the mid game. They've got actually AFK on the top, who's been a rock. He plays weak side really well. He plays the carries a little bit too, and I'm really high on that guy too. They've got Applause as well. Applause and Griffin in the late game work so well as a crowd control duo, and they just set up these team fights for the rest of their team to just pop off, or if the rest of the team dies, for Griffin to pop off, because he just will. He will make Rek'Sai look like a scaling champion. He'll just stomp you in the team fights if you let him. So, got to be really careful of Griffin. I don't know if you can ban him out, but you should probably try, because he's looking super good on this team. And yeah, I think Lost Collective look phenomenal. They are one of the strongest first seed teams across the entire league, but I do have one Fire Division team above them, and that is going to be my third place team, Akuma Scythes. Now this is a little bit of a hot take as opposed to where a lot of people are placing this team, but I have a ton of confidence in this squad. They've got two junglers, very similar to Essentia Storm. They've got Kaz and some carry. I don't really know what their plan is for swapping them out or whatnot, but it seems to me that based on the roster announcement that some carry is going to be starting, so that's going to be pretty exciting. I think that they both are really strong, so whoever they do have in, I'm very confident in this team. I've got them at third for a reason, and a really big reason for that is X Fluke. If you watched last split in the fall, X Fluke did win MVP over all the players. He was a phenomenal player on Akuma Blades. He did win the entire tournament, and yeah, ton of confidence that this guy will be able to just carry the team by himself, but he doesn't need to. He's got Indigo on his team. He's got Shaden on his team. These players are so clutch in the late game when they're playing these carry champions. Indigo, probably on paper, the best bot laner in the entire league. And I put him lower because of the shaky performance for Akuma Scythes across the split. But knowing what I know about this player and after watching him last split as well, I think that this is the strongest bot laner in the entire league, and he's shown it before. I think that he will show it in playoffs as well. I think he's going to be really driven to show that as well. And Shaden, too. We've seen Shaden play weak side. We've seen him play the Soraka support style, which is a little bit out of meta now, but he could still pull something out like that, and we've seen him play the carries too. So I'm really high on Shaden. And Doctor as well. I think Doctor, again, has shown his worth in the previous split as well. It's definitely not a meta that suits him all that well. The Pyke is a little bit worse than it used to be, but Pyke's still, he is still phenomenal on Pyke, so you still have to be very scared of that. And yeah, definitely a very threatening team to go against here in the playoffs. I think that they are pretty momentum based too, so if they do pick up game one, I think it's pretty likely that they will just 3-0. And yeah, this is going to be a team to watch out for here, coming from the Fire Division, the widely accepted best division in the league. So, with that, I'm going to my last team in the A tier, and this might be my biggest hot take of the entire split. But if you've heard me as well, you know how high I am on this team. I think that this is a shoe-in for the finals, and I hope to see it. I think this team is really good, and that is going to be OTA Glacials. OTA, I'm putting them very high, and it is mostly because of their bot lane. I think their bot lane duo is really in contention for the best bot lane duo in the entire league, like I mentioned before, with Aether. In their current form, Atinio and Merc look phenomenal. Their synergy as a duo looks like the best over all of the other teams. They look super solid. They will just bot diff you very early on. Merc with the Thresh as well. There was a game where he just bot diffed at 3 minutes and it was over from there just because of his Thresh. So good. And Atinio, no slouch either. He looks amazing in all of his games. And yeah, I'm really high on their bot lane. They've also got Axum. And while he can have really high highs, he can also have some pretty low lows. But the highs definitely make it worth it for me to hype him up, I think. His set looks like the best across the entire league. Set is one of those really strong champions you got to be really careful of. You probably have to just ban that champion away from him. Speaking of champions you have to ban Karthus against Klepto-Bismol because he will just farm it out. He will carry his team later on if it does come to that on Karthus. But if it's not on the Karthus, he looks like a really solid support jungler here, just supporting his team on these tanks. He plays the Zac really well. He's got the Nautilus jungle of old, which I honestly hope he doesn't pull out, but he can, I guess. He looks really solid on all these tanks, and I think he's a really solid support jungler for his team. And this team's got Nutty 9 on it. What's not to love about Nutty 9? I'm really glad to see him back in the league, though, all memes aside, on his main role as well in the playoffs. I think he is a really, really good mid laner, very confident guy, and I'm really excited to see him play, especially against Aether. I think that's going to be a banger of a match. You guys are not going to want to miss that. That is going to be tomorrow, which is Thursday at 7. And yeah, it's going to be a really good match. Not going to want to miss that one for OTA Glacials. And yeah, they're my second team on the power rankings, which only leaves one left. And that is my only team in the S tier, which I have as red. And the only team left in the playoffs, the only team that I've got in the S tier, the team that I have winning the entire tournament is Akuma Katanas. Akuma Katanas, I'm not even truly sure where to start with this team. They look so good in every single game that they play. They have the best team cohesion across the entire league. If one person goes for a play, you gotta know that the other 4 will be there right behind them. They have so much confidence in each other, and that's a really, really valuable trait to have as a team in this league. I think they do it the best. They still have the player skill as well to back it up. Coronavirus in the top lane, I think, is by far the best top laner remaining in the tournament. I wouldn't say by far if Papi Chulo was still playing, but he is not. I think that he is. I think that Coronavirus is the best top laner by a lot. He fits this meta so well. Like I was saying about B-Way as well, with the buffs to the Hydra and the Bork, I think Coronavirus is only going to get stronger. He does play those champions really, really well. His Kled looks unstoppable. His Aatrox as well. His Renekton, even though it's out of meta. His Set too. He just plays it all, and you have to be scared of that guy. Another person you have to be scared of is Klexo in the mid lane. He plays the support champions, and he still out-farms people. He plays the Ivern for Doubtful's Rengar. He plays the Lulu for the Funnel. And it's just nuts. I don't know what else to say other than that it's nuts. He's out farming people, but he can still play the carries too. He will play the Akali. He had the best Akali in the entire league last split, and even though Akali's a little bit nerfed, he can still play it very, very well, and I expect he might be able to pull that out. He plays other carries too, and you have to be scared of that. This is a very, very flexible player on this team. He plays whatever the team needs him to, and he looks dominant on every single champion. You've also got Doubtful. Doubtful is the player who draws the most bans in the entire league, I would say, except for maybe Griffin, who in that game did draw 5 bans. You have to ban Doubtful's Rengar. You probably should ban his Lee Sin too. He looks crazy on that. You have to be scared of his Olaf. You have to be scared of his Hecarim. All these champions look so good on this team. And he's got the support to back it up too. Like I mentioned, he's got the Ivern from Klexo. He's got the Lulu. And recently, Forbidden has been pulling out the Yuumi too. It looks super scary. Speaking of Forbidden, he and June in the bot lane, while they don't really have the win condition of playing bot lane and winning that lane, they will make sure that their opponents do not win through bot lane at all. They are just going to stonewall you, make sure you cannot get any advantages there. They're playing these enchanters that will outscale you and still outlane you as well. And they look super good on this team. On top of it, the team fights, they look so dominant, and you just can't really do anything about it. The players in the front, you can't even not focus them because they're all playing damage carries with the support too. So you can't even get to the backline to hit June because you've got a rampaging Olaf and an Aatrox charging you down. So June really safe on this team, and he's just able to pump out the damage, and Forbidden does it too on the supports. So every single play on this team looks phenomenal. I'm definitely betting that this team wins the entire split. I'd be surprised if they didn't. And yeah, Kumakatanas. I think this is going to be the winner of the entire split. But with that, yeah, that is going to round out my power rankings here. Like I mentioned before, there's going to be a link in the description to the tier maker where you yourself can make your own tier list. I've got mine as well. Let me pull it up actually. We've got the visual for you. That's what mine looks like. If you would like to make yours as well, you can make it just like that. It'll well, not just like that. I want to hear your opinions. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong in your opinion. I want you to tell me why your team is actually going to win the entire thing. I'd love to hear from you, your opinions on that. Be sure to send me a DM on Discord or just in the SmaxTalk discussions as well. I would love to see it there. And yeah, thank you again for watching as well. It's been a really fun video to make. The tier list as well that I've made on the website was super fun, and the power rankings in general. I'm really excited to be doing this here. Shout out to Eris for giving me the idea as well from the Optimal League. Kind of kind of ripping them off, but I'm still glad to be doing it. I did get his blessing to do it as well. So yeah, but yeah, thanks again for watching the SmaxTalk podcast here, and I'm excited for these matchups. Like I've mentioned before, they are going to begin March 5th, Thursday at 7 Eastern Time. We've got the Liftoff Show, we've got the Analyst Desk, and we've got the games too. Going to be all best of 5. You are not going to want to miss that. We're going to be beginning very, very soon. So with that, thanks again for watching. This has been Smacks on the SmaxTalk podcast. We'll see you all again next time. Bye bye.